In this video, I will be going over our assignment for topic 1, titled Education Terminology Associated with Lesson Planning. This assignment, you're going to be researching educational terminology and writing a brief explanation and definition of each educational term in your own words. After that, you'll provide one example of each term's purpose in planning, instruction, and assessment process. So let's go ahead and take a look at our, what's it called? At our template that's attached at the bottom here to see what we need to do. So here you'll see it gives you a list of different educational terminology. And what we'd like to see on here is a brief explanation of what it is. And so describing, what it is, and then over here, what its purpose is. For example, you might say something like a lesson plan is a teacher's daily plan on what they'll be teaching and how they will teach it. It'll include details such as a standard, activities, and an assessment. And then your purpose, you might put something along the lines of the purpose of a lesson plan is so that the teacher knows what they're teaching that day and they can be prepared for instruction, whatever it may be. So that's going to be what you do in part 1. This assignment has 2 parts. So after you get through each of those terms, many you will find in the book, some you will not find in the book. For example, these 3, the multiple means of expression, engagement, and representation, those are on our lesson plan template that you'll be using in part 2. So if you don't find all of these within the book, you can look in the lesson plan, which explains what each of these are. Additionally, you can Google these items as well and find definitions and what they mean that way, but start with our resources within the course. So part 2 of the assignment, you're going to examine 2 different lesson plan formats. Now you need to use the ones that are found within our Student Success Center, the GCU templates. So you're going to look at the 2 templates and you're going to explain and compare and contrast these 2 templates. So for the majority of the program, you're going to use the traditional COE lesson plan templates. And sometimes you might use the additional lesson plan template. You can choose to go ahead and pull those up from the Student Success Center. I also attach them to the assignments. So here, when you go to the Student Success Center, you'll see we can find lesson plan templates somewhere around here. Where did they go? Right there, lesson plan templates. And you can see we have the COE lesson plan template. So this is the one you want to start with. This is the one that we'll use throughout your program in most of your classes. And when you look at this template, you'll be able to see that it has some guidance text in there on what each of these things mean. So that guidance text is there to help you understand what are standards, what are classroom grouping factors. And that's how you can use this part for the lesson plan for part 1, because here it explains what each of these are and it gives an example of each of the sections on the template. So this will be very helpful for part 1, as well as this is what you'll be using in part 2. So this is one template, and then you'll go to the additional lesson plan templates and you'll see there are several different choices here. And so you're going to choose one other template here that you would like to compare and contrast with the one I just showed you. So let's go ahead and just open the first one we see, the EEI template. Now, when I open that up, it's going to look different, and I'm going to go ahead and do those side by side so you can see what they look like next to each other. So here you can see this is the traditional one and this is the EEI one, and you're going to be comparing and contrasting. So when you do the writing, make sure you're very specific on which plan you're talking about. Um, Explicitly state an introductory sentence that says, introduces the two templates you're choosing to compare and contrast. And then be very specific by saying, in the EEI template, I notice it starts with the subject, topic of summary, topic of study, grade level summary, as well as we can see that we see this in the GCU lesson plan template as well. Um, let's go ahead and go back to the assignment instructions so we can look at what we need to analyze on both of these. So first it says what core lesson planning components are in both templates. So when they're talking about the core components, we're talking about some of those components that you see. For example, section 1 has lesson preparation. Section 2, which includes, standards, how we're going to group students, the objective for the lesson, language, and resources. Section 2 is all about the instructional planning. When you look at the EEI template, do they have those same core areas? Do they have, or is it different? So you're going to want to look at some of these core components and see what similarities and what differences they have between each of those. Then when you go back, it asks for at least 2 similarities and 2 differences between terminology and describe what you see with those differences. I really like it when you make each of these a separate paragraph. It makes it super easy for me to grade because I can see components in one paragraph, terminology in another. And lastly, you're going to look at the organization between the two formats. And are they organized the same? Are they organized different? And how is that organization different? A good example of this is like this one starts with an anticipatory set, and this one also has an anticipatory set. Then what do you notice about the organization on this one, and how is it different from that one? And then do they both end the same? Do they have the lesson close differently, or are the materials in different places, or you're going to just look at how the lesson would kind of roll out if you were teaching it and how you would use this plan. So I've included in the announcement a guide that talks about comparing and contrasting writing, just to give you a little background information on how you can write a comparative essay. I'm going to open that up real quick just to show it to you. And it's called the Academic Language Function Toolkit. And when you get in here, it gives different types of language, and you would want to go to comparing and contrasting on page 3 here. It gives an example of how you can write comparing and contrasting summary. And so here you'll be able to see that, one similarity, and you got to label it, one difference. So if this type of writing is challenging for you, you can go into this function toolkit that will help you with comparative writing. What's most important is you need to have a topic sentence. You need to introduce what plans you're talking about. Because there are so many plans within the Student Success Center, I don't know which ones you're referring to unless you tell me. So make sure that you're very explicit with that. The more detail, the better. As always, you need to view your rubric before turning in your assignment so you can see exactly how you're going to be graded and what I'm going to be looking for. On this assignment, it does not require APA, but if you want to use APA to support any of your terminology, that's always nice to see that you're citing your references. Please make sure you review this before submitting and then let me know if you have any questions.